Hello, and welcome to CarePro Worksite Wellness's presentation on tackling triglycerides. In this presentation, we will learn what triglycerides are, why high triglycerides are dangerous, how they relate to metabolic syndrome, and things you can do to tackle high triglycerides. Before we discuss how to tackle high triglycerides, we need to know what triglycerides are. Triglycerides are not consumed from the foods you eat, but rather made by your body. Here's a diagram that shows how. When you consume more calories than your body needs, specifically in a carbohydrate overload, the pancreas releases insulin, causing the liver to convert these calories to triglycerides and stores them in the fat cells of the body. The triglycerides are then released into the bloodstream when your body needs energy between meals. Therefore, the more excess body fat you have, and the more extra calories you eat, the higher your triglycerides may be. Normal triglyceride levels are less than 150 milligrams per deciliter. Elevated levels are between 150 and 199, and high risk is having a triglyceride level of 200 or above. One common question is, can you feel high triglycerides? The answer is no. There are no symptoms associated with high triglycerides, so you can't feel them. However, you can see the effects reflected in a larger waistline, because remember, triglycerides are stored in the fat cells of the body. High triglycerides also increase your risk for heart disease, stroke, obesity, and metabolic syndrome. Triglycerides are one of the 5 factors taken into consideration when determining if an individual has metabolic syndrome. The other factors taken into consideration are blood pressure, HDL cholesterol or good cholesterol, fasting blood glucose, and waist circumference. Metabolic syndrome occurs when you have 3 or more of the 5 risk factors mentioned out of optimal range. When diagnosed with metabolic syndrome, you have an increased risk for heart disease, stroke, hypertension, and type 2 diabetes. Now let's talk about some ways to tackle those high triglycerides. Simple changes in habits can lower triglycerides, which in turn leads to lower health risks. By adding small changes a little at a time, you can improve your triglyceride levels. First, losing just 5 to 10% of your body weight can have a positive impact on your triglyceride levels. Remember, your body releases triglycerides into the bloodstream from stored fat, so the less fat you have available, the lower your triglycerides will be. As an example, if you weigh 200 pounds, you would target a 10 to 20 pound loss. Another way to tackle high triglycerides is to track your food and cut your portions. The number one way to lose weight is to track your food. By being aware of what you eat and how much you eat, it will give you an insight on how to improve your eating habits and potentially motivate you to eat less if you have to write it down. Portion distortion is rampant in the dining in and out industry. Portions have doubled and even tripled in the last 20 to 30 years. Just by cutting your portions in half, you can improve not just your triglyceride levels, but other levels too. Use the My Plate picture in this slide as an example of how your plate should look at each meal. Sugar is energy, but if there is an excess in your body that's not immediately used, it'll be sent to the liver and processed into triglycerides. A tip: read labels on processed foods. A good rule of thumb is sticking to 9 grams of sugar or less per serving. Also, be wary of processed foods. Often processed foods that are marketed as healthy might be lower in fat, but higher in sugar to make up for the flavor loss. So, start reading food labels to keep yourself informed. Next, control the amount of white foods you eat, such as bread, pasta, rice, and baked goods, all of which have a high carb content. Your best option is the whole wheat variety of these listed above, but you still have to be mindful of the serving sizes. A serving size of rice, for example, should be only half a cup or less, which is about 120 calories. Most people, however, eat 1 cup or more at a time, which is equal to 240 calories or more. Cutting the serving sizes of white foods in half will probably get you closer to the recommended serving size. Also, it's important to fill up on high fiber carbs like vegetables, which are like sustained release fuel. It takes longer to digest fiber, so a good rule of thumb is to make half of your plate vegetables. Controlling calories could also be as simple as cutting out pop and alcohol, which is a major player in increasing triglycerides. Those added calories and sugar, if not needed by the body, will result in high triglycerides. Another tip is control the amount of white foods you eat, such as bread, pasta, rice, and baked goods. All of these have a high carb content. A serving of rice, for example, is half a cup, which is 120 calories. Most people, however, eat 1 cup or more at a time, which is about the size of a baseball, which is equal to 240 calories. Start by cutting those servings in half. This will probably get you closer to the recommended serving size. Fill up on high fiber carbs like vegetables, which are like sustained release fuel. It takes longer to digest fiber, so a good rule of thumb is to make half of your plate vegetables. Another way to control calories could be as simple as cutting out pop, which is a major player in increasing triglycerides. Those added calories and sugars, if not needed by the body, will be turned into fat. While strength training is beneficial, cardiovascular activity such as biking, walking, running, or even yard work has been shown to have a positive impact on your triglyceride levels. You don't have to be a member of a gym to do physical activity. If you can elevate your heart rate and work up a sweat, you're doing physical activity. Target 30 minutes at least 5 days a week. If your life is hectic, start with 10 minutes a day. Work up to 3 10-minute intervals, and there you have your 30 minutes. Don't forget, you can fit in everyday exercise by parking further away, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, and walking during halftime or practices at games. Thanks for listening. For more information or for questions, you can contact CarePro Worksite Wellness. We are here for you.